She quit her job after 22 years. And 22 years of being in a classroom to focus on her happiness. And remember, this is a happy woman's show, and it's all about how you can get happy. Our guest quit her job after 22 years in a classroom to focus on her happiness. She also made a decision not to have children. Welcome to the Happy Woman's Show, and you get to hear all of this today. So I'm AK, and I facilitate this show, and I always just help women. I like to see women getting happy. So one of the things that I do is to ensure that women are not stressful, even if you're in full-time jobs or doing whatever you are, and that extra source of income, to be able to help you to meet your other needs so that it can reduce the stress on you. And I do this by helping women to have to be able to set up digital businesses that are all automated. So that is not going to take up your time, and that will help you to earn extra source of income. But today we want to hear from our guest today. So without going further, I'm going to invite our guest today to introduce herself. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. My name is Kelly Hawkins, and I live in the U.S., and I'm thrilled to be here with you today. This is a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah.
I love this. I love the subject of your show. So I was drawn to it for sure. And I love that it's for women and about happiness and helping one another. All those things are wonderful.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Right. So Kelly, we want to hear your story. Where do you want to start on? So we want to be focusing on how the show is all about how women can be happy, how they can be able to train their mindset to be happy consistently. Because, as women, we got a lot of, we are so full of emotions, and sometimes it's not just easy to focus on so many things at a time. So we would like to hear from you. What is it about happiness? What happened that you had to quit your job to focus on your happiness?
Well, I think that you're totally right. We have so many things going on all at once, particularly as women. Again, we're kind of usually the caretakers, if not for our family, of children, spouses or parents or whoever it might be. And I took care of other people's children for so many years, and I loved it, and it was very fulfilling, and it was my calling, but it was all of the other things that were just so incredibly stressful. The educational mandates and things coming down from administrators and the social emotional demands and all of that other stuff that for many years I wasn't as happy as I was when I first started, but I kind of ignored that. I didn't listen to my intuition. I thought, well, next year will be better. Okay, maybe next year will be better. And it was what I was trained to do. And I always thought I would be a teacher. And I thought, well, gosh, if I leave, what am I going to do? I can't, what else can I do? And so I really ignored it. The universe was kind of whispering at me for a few years to move on and get out. And I didn't listen to it until the pandemic hit. And then the universe was screaming at me, it's time to get out. You have to do something different. And that's when I finally took a leave of absence. I was fortunate enough to be able to do that, to kind of take a step back, take a year off, kind of prioritize. And when I found myself much happier, much calmer, my anxiety level went way down. I thought, I can't go back to that. I have to take care of myself. And then I also started getting into things I always wanted to do, creative outlets, and that made me happier. It was like one thing just led to another. And I started discovering all these things and really took the time to kind of find again what it was that made me happy. As I said, working with my students always did, but that wasn't enough anymore with all of the other negative things. So in that time off, I wrote 2 books. I started narrating books for Audible, and I loved it. I loved So I feel like I kind of found myself once I stepped away from what I thought was my identity. It led me in a bunch of different directions. Now I'm working for a magazine. I am back in the classroom at the college level. So all these new adventures, which I never thought I'd be doing, I am. And I feel like anybody can do it.
I
Um,
see. Wow,
yeah.
wow. Yeah, you said you feel anybody can do it. Right. We are having this show, podcast as well. And we know that a lot of teachers are going to be listening to this. And some of them might be in the same situation that you were 22 years ago. What is it about teaching that was quite stressful for you?
Oh, I think there were so many things. It was, I mean, every career changes and grows and you get a lot more responsibilities and things like that. So that wasn't out of the
Mm.
norm. But it got to the point where teachers were expected to play so many roles. When I envisioned becoming a teacher of high school English, I thought, oh, I'll teach them about Shakespeare and I'll teach them about
Mm.
literature and it'll be wonderful. And it was, and that was
Yeah.
still a part of it. But then I realized, gosh, I am their second parent. I'm supposed to be a nurse to them. I'm supposed to be their psychologist. I'm supposed to be their
Uh,
counselor. Now I'm a police officer. We got into the very unfortunate active shooter drills, and it just became this whole other animal. And I thought, oh my gosh, the time I'm taking to teach my kids is so small now because of all these other roles that we're playing, and it
mm,
was just expected that we would do it, and
yeah.
again, I would do anything for my students, and I did it, but I put my own health kind of on the back
Yes.
burner while I did that. I just kept going, 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 and I think a lot of teachers feel that way, that all these expectations are just dumped on us, and we rise to the occasion and we do it, so then we're given
Mm,
more. It's
mhm.
like we
Yeah.
can't keep up with. And I know there are a lot of careers out there where people are working extremely hard and don't get the support they need.
I
Um,
know.
but
So
it was just too much.
yeah, for 22 years, you were able to continue to be a teacher. What is it that kind of held you on for these 22 years, given all these issues that you're talking about?
It was the students for sure. I
Oh,
loved working with young people,
people.
particularly teenagers, which is not
Yeah.
always a popular group of kids to work with, but they were
Yeah.
such a wonderful combination of still being children in a lot of ways, but also being on the cusp of adulthood. And they had so many incredible ideas, and we had amazing conversations, and they taught me quite a bit, you know um, as well. And I always tried to make my classroom a safe place where we could share ideas, where everybody was appreciated. And when I
Mm,
shut the door to my classroom and when I was with my kids, that's when I was the happiest. Looking at cards and notes they had given me over the years, that sustained me. But it was getting
mm,
to the point where those things were sort of not quite enough anymore because the stresses and the negativity were heavier than that. And when that pivoted, when that shift happened and I
yeah.
couldn't get it back, that's when I said, I have to make a change. I can't stay in this anymore.
Yeah. Wow. That is so good.
Yeah.
At least you had to prioritize yourself. Yeah. So we've listened how you stopped teaching, you focus on writing books. Is it writing for magazines? You said you write for
Yeah, I'm the
magazines?
editor. I do a little bit of writing. I'm the editor for a local magazine that just started here
Editor
too.
for okay, for a magazine. Right.
Hmm.
All of these things they still need an element of work. But what I want you
Yes.
to tell us now is how have you been able to focus on your happiness, your personal happiness? What is it and
So
how is it now? How are you experiencing yourself now? What is it that is so beautiful and nice about life
I,
now?
I,
And you're being happy?
yeah, I think that having the courage, again, it took a long time for me to listen to my intuition. I think we need to really listen to ourselves and those little
Yeah.
voices that we sometimes ignore, and have the courage to make that change if you're not happy. Life is too short. And I know a lot of people might not be able to do it right away because of, they need that stability, financial stability. But even if you are unable to leave a job or a situation at the moment, I think if you start making plans and reaching out and trying to get support, just the thought of getting out of a negative situation helped me.
Yeah.
I could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I found my attitude change.
Yeah.
And so when I left, I had a lot more time to myself to really think about, sit with my thoughts, think about where I wanted to go. And then when I wrote my books, everything kind of started to fall into place after that. It was amazing to me. Things I wasn't even looking for kind of fell into my lap. And the more gratitude I expressed for those things, the more they kind of came to fruition. So I think being thankful for what we have is huge. That makes me happy. Even if it's the little things, even if you're having a bad day, you can at least come up with 5 small things that you're thankful for, I hope. Talking to people who have been through similar experiences is extremely helpful. You need a support system of
Yeah.
positive people. And I think just being with your thoughts, whether it's journaling, whether it's meditating, you really need to step back from the stresses and crazy schedules that we all have and take a moment for yourself and think about, what do I want and how can I make that happen? I think we all get stuck and trapped thinking that, okay, this is the job I have, or this is the place I live, and that's the way it's going to be. But we have to dig deep and find the courage and maybe the self-esteem to make those changes. And it's not done by yourself. You need the support. You need a support system. But it's so worth it. It's so worth it to enjoy yourself and to wake
That's
up
right.
looking forward to the
Yeah.
day instead of
I
dreading it.
know. I know. Yeah, it's so funny enough because last week, Friday, I had a lady come on and she was talking about how you can find happiness in your marriage. And we went on to talk about, I spoke to her, I was discussing how, for me, happiness is all as well to do with your mindset. And and it's something that I had done for a very long time. That's why I actually want to be talking about happiness all the time and help women about happiness. I used to worry about every little bit of thing, and it wasn't good because it then had an impact on my health, you know. And then I spoke about the fact that if I listen to myself and I notice that something is stressful, I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to put myself in a situation where something is stressful. And she said, yes, you have to listen to your body. And it's quite interesting. You said the same thing today, and you said that we have to listen to ourselves. We need to listen to
Yes.
ourselves. She also mentioned the fact that, we need to find joy in very little things. We don't have to, because, sometimes we think that we have to book that holiday or we have to build that big house or that car before you're happy, because at the end of the day, you keep going and you're not getting happy. She spoke about finding happiness even in that little time, little space. And she said for her, even things like when she buys like a pair of socks, the fluffiness with the socks, she find the time to just experience joy, And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
quite amazing. So you kind of build it within yourself, like a habit to, and be conscious about it. Like, I need to be joyful, I need to be happy.
Yes.
Yes, and which you talk about, find those little things, small little things, 5 things that you are happy about. Yeah. So anyone that is listening, you can also contact people that have gone through similar experiences and find out how they're doing. Kelly's just here. Journaling, meditating, self-esteem. These are tips that you're talking to our listeners that are listening. For them, the message we're trying to pass out on this podcast or show is that as women, we need to focus on our happiness. We need to focus on our joy. We need to focus on our self-care. There's no need trying to scramble and get all these things and do something that is so stressful. And then you live the rest of your life like a dead person. Inwardly, you are not well, but people see you expressing yourself. You said 22 years you were there, you go to work, you still perform, But you know, I know within you that this is not right. This is not right for me in my body. You listen. So, listeners, if you are listening, pay attention to your body. What is it that your body is telling you? Listen to your body. Right. Michelle, the next question that, sorry, Kelly, the next question that I'm going to ask you is, what kind of books do you write about?
So my first book was about teaching. I followed the adage, write what you know. And even though I had stepped away from the classroom, I still wanted to write about it. And
Yeah.
so the opportunity came up for me to work with a publisher that has a series called 50 Things to Know. So I wrote my first one about being a high school teacher, what it was like. It's kind of a guide for teachers who are just starting out, but I think it's
Yeah.
useful for veteran teachers that might need a couple reminders of what it used
Yeah.
to be like. So that was a lot of fun. And then and it was terrifying too, because I thought, oh gosh, is anyone going to read this? Is anyone going to like this? And when I got a lot of support from family and friends and former students, that gave me the confidence to write another book for the series called 50 Things to Know About Being Child Free by Choice, which is also
Wow.
very important to
Oh,
me.
I forgot. I haven't
Um,
spoken to you about that chat. That's quite interesting. I will be
yeah,
happy to hear that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So, and that was a big risk because it's not a popular choice.
That's right.
But again, I wanted to reach women in particular who have made that choice to feel supported.
That's
And
right.
I also wanted to describe it to moms that, it's not a negative thing. It's not undermining what they do at all. I have a wonderful mother, wonderful father. Um, it's just a choice that was right for my husband and I. And obviously, I love kids, working with my students for that
Yeah.
long. And I
You're spending a
have
lot whole
nieces.
life working with kids.
Yes, absolutely. And I have nieces and nephews and godchildren, and I love children, but I just didn't want that huge responsibility of having my own for many, many reasons. So I wrote that book, and it was really interesting to see the results of how many people in my life have also made that choice, but maybe not, were never vocal about it before,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's not something a lot of people talk about. I think
That's right.
people assume that people maybe want children and can't have them, which is a total other, ball game.
Mm.
And so I just wanted to write about that because that's a huge part of my life. Um, and so that was important to me. And the result of that, getting positive feedback from that book was really special. And I felt kind of
Oh,
validated in my choice.
that's all right.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm just gonna touch on it. What is it about having children that you and your husband were a bit worried and decided? Is it worried? I don't know. I don't know the term to use. But what happened that you decided not to have children?
I think worried is a great word. I
Okay.
definitely have a high level of anxiety, and so I know that I would be freaking out over every little thing. And I just, I never had the biological clock ticking, as they say. I never had that maternal drive, that the feeling that you need to have children. It's absent in me. Or
Okay.
I think maybe it came out in another way of, again, taking care of other people's children. Like that fulfilled
Mm,
my maternal instinct enough. But the thought
mm.
of creating another human being and being responsible for that
Oh.
person is terrifying to me. And I give parents a lot of credit. It is so difficult, especially, I suppose everybody could say, whenever they had children, the world was a rough place, because things happen. But it's just, there's so much you need to protect them from. And I feel like I just would be a nervous wreck for the rest of my life.
Oh.
So, yeah, I feel like we enjoy our time with our nieces and nephews and godchildren, but it's so lovely to be able to come back home and have peace and quiet
Please.
and play with our dog and not have
Yeah.
that giant responsibility. So,
Oh. Oh. Okay. All right. So, one thing I'm just thinking is that it looks like maybe working with children for 22 years and seeing what, all the things that they're displaying, or what, what they're exposed to, that kind of a bit of a worry. That's, to me, that's what I'm thinking, that may have added. So is it the decision? I know, yeah. To me, from what you are saying, I would think that maybe your husband was just in agreement. Does he have the same, thoughts like you? Like he never thought of having children as well.
Yes, and so I think that's
Right.
really important. I think that's a conversation that you have to have with your partner early on because it's a huge part of your
Okay.
life. And again, he's very good with kids. He's like, the favorite uncle.
Mm,
He enjoys his time with them, and he would have made a wonderful father if that's the choice that he had
yeah.
taken. But he too, we appreciate our quiet time, and we appreciate being able to just be spontaneous and go out to dinner if we feel like it without having to,
I'm not
get a
thinking of
babysitter.
childcare, who's gonna look after baby, or they're crying in the night and things like that. It's good to know
Right.
yourself, and I just think that you are such, two of you are just perfectionist, and that's what it is. You
Yes,
want to give
that
the
too.
best to the child, and you're thinking, I might not be able to give that best, and therefore there's no need to bring another human being and get them, go through. I have children, but sometimes it does get to me, and I'm like, no, I'm not worried about parenting and things like that, but I'm more of what is happening in the world. And
Mhm.
I'm like, giving birth again to children to go through all of this. The world is just something else these days. And I'm like, that is my own fear and worry. Like, if I'm going to give birth to a child now, I'll be thinking, all these things that are going on, how am I gonna, because to be honest, it wasn't like this before. It's just getting
Right.
worse and worse with the world events that are taking place and how life is like at the moment. But we hope it's gonna get better. But I really do
Yeah.
appreciate, your honesty about the fact that you made an informed decision, you and your husband. I think that's what is crucial there. Because some
Yes.
people, they may get into a relationship and it's along the lines that they then think that they're not gonna have children, and then that affects that relationship. But with you, you sorted it out right from the beginning. So if anyone is
Mhm.
listening, please don't get this twisted. This is a
Mhm.
decision made by two adults before they ever get married, and that's why it's working for them.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
and
And if you need
and I think
support around that,
yeah.
you can talk to Kelly about it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the next question I'm gonna ask you is, this new life, no more working 24/7, because it looks like that was how it was. Because you leave the classroom, you're gonna go back home and prepare lessons, you're gonna do some marking, it's not ending, and you have to do all these other roles: police officer, nurse, whatsoever, parent, and all whatnot. So what are you now have a different life where you're focusing, like I could say you're an entrepreneur now, trying to do things by yourself and choosing what you like to do.
Mhm.
Has there been any challenges with this new found life that you're living at the moment?
Yes, I would say I think that even though it was very stressful and my day was fully packed before, and my evenings were, as you said, with correcting, and it never ended, and we never really had weekends and vacations either. You were still always doing something. So to go from that to having to kind of build my own schedule, I'm not
Mm.
very good at that. I discovered I'm not very good at
Yeah.
getting myself up early. I'm not a morning person. I'm more sleeping a little bit later and staying up a little bit later is my natural rhythm, I guess. And trying to juggle all of these different things, which are wonderful and creative, but not having a set schedule has been really interesting. That's been a challenge to me. And so not having, I mean, literally everything was scheduled for us at school, when to eat, when the bell rings, when the class starts, when the class ends, when I can go to the restroom. And so to go from that to, gosh, I can eat lunch when I'm hungry. It might not be at noon, it might be 2 o'clock, and that's okay. So really that shift of having a much different schedule has been It's been wonderful and I appreciate it, but I feel like I'm still getting used to it also. Still meeting all the deadlines I need to meet, but having much more freedom in how I meet those. Like with the audiobooks, for example, if I didn't feel like recording during the day, I could go into my little sound booth and do it at 10 o'clock at night. And that was
Okay.
awesome. I loved it.
After you've
So,
rested at your time that is good for you. Yeah.
yes,
That is
definitely. So,
that is so good. That is so good. Right. So I'm just gonna speak to the audience or the listeners that are listening to this. We've all heard women that are coming on the show and they're talking about how things have been very, very overwhelmed in their life and they had to take a step back and to be able to kind of think critically what is good for them. What is it that they want to do to be happy? Happiness is what everybody should be pursuing. As a woman, I just think we are doing far too much. We're human beings. We were not meant to function like robots. It's just too much, irrespective of, positive thinking or trying to say all these things. The truth is, as a woman, there's just a lot for you to handle. You've got to take care of your children if you have children. You've got to go to that work. You've got to be able to and if you're single, it's even worse because you've got to then go to work, trying to pay bills by yourself, trying to look after children by yourself. You're a mom, you're a dad, and it's just too much for women. What we're trying to say here is that please look critically into what you are doing. Is it adding happiness to yourself or is not adding happiness? Listen to yourself and take decisions. Do not be scared about decisions that you are making in regards to your happiness because that is crucial. Even as a mom, if you're not happy, it's going to be difficult to be able to provide good enough parenting for your children, and children will grow up to emulate what they're observing around their surroundings. So we're saying here that focus on your happiness and that's what is paramount, right? With what I am offering, I do support women, as I said, to be able to earn money with using automation, because I, for one, has also been through all these challenges of being overwhelmed and actually really looking, is life just about doing this, doing that? And actually looking for a little space to relax. You're not having it. And that is the reason why I chose a different method of, having extra money coming into my coffers. Yeah. And I help other women to do that stress-free, setting everything on automation, using digital marketing, setting everything on automation so you can have that time, that freedom to be able to think about what you are doing. So if you're one woman that you are listening and your life is just so quite stressed and you're doing a lot of things at the same time and still yet you're finding it difficult to have that money to be able to do things, contact me and I'll be able to give you some information about how you can be able to earn money without that work. Because for me, stress is not something I really want around me. I will rather not do anything if it's going to be stressful. I will rather not do anything if it's going to affect my mental health. It's going to affect my body. It's going to give me stress. I'm going to feel pain in my body throughout. I prefer to be happy than trying to chase things that, would make me unwell in the name of the fact that I'm trying to maybe make some money to meet my ends. So we have to prioritize our health. So Kelly, is there anything that you would want to, we're almost coming to the end of the show, but is there anything that you would want to tell our listeners?
I think that another thing that brings about happiness is when you help other people. And just listening to you, and your willingness to help others, that's huge. And I think if you're ever feeling not happy, try to go out and maybe make a donation or volunteer some time if you have it, or just listen
Yeah,
to a friend that's struggling. I mean, that's huge. When you can help somebody else, it takes the focus off of your problems.
I
It
know.
makes you feel better, and it helps that person.
I
So I think
know.
that's another way that you can try to increase your own happiness,
That's
which we all
right.
need to do.
And you quite touch on charity, because that's something. Just yesterday, a colleague sent me something through the funding stuff for cancer here in the UK, and she asked me to
Mhm,
sponsor her for. She's going for a run with her little daughter, in regards to their grandmother who had cancer. So she was
mhm.
asking me to help with the funding, and I was straight on it. I said any little bit of thing that I need to do to help people, I'm straight on. And all the time, she's always doing this kind of stuff. I'm like, there are people out there that are really genuinely nice and kind and trying to give back. And I'm like,
Yes.
wow, this is all about happiness. Because the more you give, the more you're trying to help people, that's how you derive satisfaction. It's not always about me, trying to get all these things. As a giver, I think you're much more in a happy place. So if you are listening, try and find things that can make you happy. What is it that you've let for too long that you were using as a source of happiness? Is it, you don't know, helping somebody? Is it funding for charity, and just knowing that you're doing your best to kind of make the world a better place? So
Exactly.
yeah, so thank you, Kelly, for coming on the show. And I think we've come to the end of it, except there's any last one word that you want to leave. That's fine. Otherwise, we come to the end of it.
I think that's everything.
Excellent, excellent. Quite on time. Yeah. So
Thank
thank you.
you.
I'm going to stop the streaming now.